their oldest daughter. She's a grandma. She has 2 great-grandchildren.
Excuse me?
Oh, well, so I'm aging her a little. She has 2 grandchildren, so we call her Granny now.
Well, Dad's always been there for me whenever I needed him. But when the people at the school district discovered that I was his daughter when he worked in AV department, he'd call up and say, I need that film you have. And they'd say, oh, we gave it to your daughter. So one thing about retirement, they can't use that excuse anymore. They're going to have to take care of their own AV problems. I think the biggest thing my sister and I had to endure was the guys meeting Dad for the first time.
Amen.
They didn't take one look at him and know they were in deep trouble if they messed the wrong way. But I do have to say that it has always been a joy to have Dad there when we needed him. Sometimes too much there. Only when we dated, though. But as a father, he's always been the best. They named me Joe. I guess I take after him. Yeah, did you say I'm a lot like you, my family? That's right, best of the lot. I always told my sisters that it took 8.5 years after me before they had her. And I said that's because they figured out that after 8.5 years, this one's pretty great, we can try once more. Little did they know. But I love her and I wouldn't trade her. Yeah. But I just would like to also thank all of you for being here. It's funny when the principal, after I'd be working at the site, and they'd go to do my review, and somehow the principal would say, I didn't know you were Joe's daughter. You hoped he was on good terms with that principal, especially when he was writing your review. But I never had a problem, and Dad always gave me good advice. Never kill the kids. Hit them where it doesn't show. And swear that they hit you first. Never had to do that. Unfortunately, I work in the special ed department, and then I work at Children's Center. And I just enjoy what I do. And, oh, Father, we're not telling them about the truck. That was years ago. Oh! It took me years to get courage to tell him. But as a father, he was always there for us. As a grandfather, I believe he's always been there. And yes. Nicky, when he comes over, he says, Grandpa Pierce, open the door. But I really have nothing too bad to say about Dad, except if you're a little late from a date and he meets you at the door, you're in deep trouble. But talking about Leanne talked about egging a house. I toilet papered a girl's house that I went to school with, and as we were running away, this lady yells, Joann Pierce, of all people. So I told all the girls, go home, tell your mothers, because they've already called mine. So when I got home and I'm telling about it, Mom's kicking the heck out of Dad's leg because they were in bed. Mom's going, oh my God. And Dad's going, yeah, you did something wrong for once. But anyway, it was a different story with my younger sister. So I think I said enough. I'll let someone else.
I would just like to say I'm very proud of both of my girls. Joann has been going back to school, and she has gotten a temporary teaching certificate certificate and is working 2 hours a day as a teacher. And I'm very proud of her because it's taking guts to go back into the certificate.
And now we'll have Bill Watkins, the oldest son-in-law.
Oh, oldest.
I think we'll go back to about 1962 when I met Joe, and that's when he was in the market as security. And I just met my wife, and believe me, when I met Joe, I was the scariest man on earth. Because when you meet a person at 4 o'clock in the morning, your wife's either crazy or I'm nuts for going in the house. I never had figured out what. But when he came out, I was ready to run. But, oh yeah, turkey farm we won't go into, Joe. Mom don't want to play turkey no more either. But anyway, in 72, I was sitting in her home with him talking, and all of a sudden Joe gets a call, and he says, Bill, would you like to roll with me? I said, sure. And we head for L.A. And we get down this alley that looked like something out of the movies, and he's looking around, and all of a sudden he says, there he is, and he jumps out of the car with his gun. And I'm shaking like a leaf, and he says, open your door and back me, and he threw me a gun. And I'm just sitting there shaking, and what do I do? You know, this guy's nuts, you know, who am I going to shoot? And from that day on, I learned I didn't want to roll with him no more. But he took me from that point, and cutting down a little bit, he put me in security. And then Joe started me back out into the grocery business, and I worked 18 years after that. But Joe did a thing one day, his grandchildren filled this fountain that he had, and they put dirt in it. And all Grandpa had to do is take off his belt and hang it up. And my boys just went, and that was the last time they ever did anything to Grandpa. But getting on the serious point, he's been a fantastic leader to his family. I have looked to Joe for many, many trials and tribulations that's happened through my life, and he has seen me through them. I have went to him, and he has seen me through a lot of things. He showed me what work was and how to do it. He has always showed us how to maintain our home and keep it, and always remind us that your home does come first. And to me, I fell into one of the most finest families that I could have ever met. And the one they call Bud is my father, and I'm very proud of him. But my mother did pass on. And I didn't lose a mother. To me, I fell into one of the most finest families that I could have ever met. And the one they call Bud is my father, and I'm very proud of him. But my mother did pass on. And I didn't lose a mother, I gained a real mother behind me. Because whenever I've had a problem, she's been there. And I went over many salesmen for years, and I'd sneak off a little corner for my lunch and talk to Mom, because the salesman has a day. And I'd have many of them, and she'd help me right through it, and I'd go out and smile on my face and face them people like all the teachers and you have to do. It gets to be a drag. But they are great, great people. And there's not really too much I can roast him on, because he's done more good to me than bad, except the turkey farm. And I'm not going to go into the Walnut Barn turkey farm because it's gone, but it all boiled down that we went to the turkey farm, and they've never believed our story. But it's true, we did go to a turkey farm. Thank you.
Are you having a problem with those handkerchiefs? He's got a set of keys. He's trying to get away. Do you think you're a musician? Houdini? Boy, Gene, he's trying over here.
You know, I did forget something that I want to remind you of. Joe always told me if I ever got pulled over in Baldwin Park, he was well known and no problem. So one night I scooted through a stop sign, and then scooted through around corner in the red light. And the police pulled me over, and I said, well, oh, you know, my father-in-law is Joe Pierce. He says I was going to get you for the stop sign, but now I'm going to get you for the red light. Oh, excuse me, the red light and the signal, and you don't have no backup lights. And you know something, mister? I don't like that guy. So I've never mentioned his name around Baldwin Park no more.
Jean Grey, would you come up and roast Father so we can take the handcuffs after you roast him? She's gonna get even for a few, many years.
For a wedding would do it nice.
The first time, I'd like to know, Joe, do you still want to know if you're an aunt or an uncle? Well, I think the first thing that I really remember about is my wedding, the worst part. He showed up at the house with a shotgun. I knew I was in trouble. Well, we got through the wedding and everything was pretty good and very quiet, and until we got back from the honeymoon, my great uncle had taken all the cards off the packages and handed it to my mother in a lump sum. And I have never forgiven him. We've been married for 34 years, over for 34 years. But he's been a great uncle, really.
Thank you, Jean. Do you think it's safe to uncuff him now, or does Daniel want to say a few words before we uncuff Uncle Joe?
I am going to have to read something here. 28 years ago, I was about 13 years old. It was Thanksgiving, and we're at Mom and Dad's house. Everybody, all the men were in the backyard chit-chatting. And my brother Rob, which is another genius, brings out this hunting crossbow and hands it to Uncle Joe. Uncle Joe says, gee, look at this, and he points it in the air and shoots it. And I start thinking, three things occurred to me. Uncle Joe's an adult, he can do just about anything he wants. And number two, at that time he had no spousal support. She was in the house, he was out there. And number three, he's in the family, there's not much you can do about it. Well, then I started to think, what the hell's wrong with this guy? 30 seconds later, the arrow did come down. God didn't want anybody that day, and nobody got hurt. Uncle Joe, you're going to retire, and there's going to be mornings you're going to wake up saying, gee whiz, what am I going to do today? Well, before you make any decisions, first decision should be to take Aunt Phyllis with you. Because you're not safe on the loose.
Thank you, Daniel. Now my better half, Don Chapman.
Stand up, we can't see you.
How you doing? Wrote down a few things I'd like to read here. Notice to appear. Oh. I met the end of Joe's shotgun. I mean his daughter 15 years ago, and I've been in the family since then. Very proud of it also. I was born in a family where love was unconditional and children were number one. And it was very nice to marry into a family that was exactly the same way. Since then, a lot of things have happened, and Joe never gets mad. I was so lucky. Joe's a good father-in-law. He didn't get mad when I spilled a 5-gallon bucket of paint in his bedroom while I was cleaning his bedroom. He never got mad. And when I agreed to paint the outside of his house, he didn't get mad when I painted one wall every 3 months. He took that pretty good.
No, read the other side.
He also doesn't get mad. Seems that every time we borrow one of his cars, it breaks down. And he takes that pretty good, too. He never gets mad about that either. But speaking of Baldwin Park Police Department, I also have a story I'd like to say, is that I was talking to an officer a couple weeks ago that was talking about Joe, and he had mentioned to me that a few years back, one of Joe's officers were in trouble at one of the schools, and the Baldwin Park Police Department got the call as well as the school police, and Baldwin Park Police Department was rolling code 3, which is lights and sirens, and Joe passed the unit. One of his officers were in trouble. He passed the police cars that were en route to the school and got there before he did. So that was one thing I had to throw in there. Other than that, it's a pleasure being in this family. Thank you very much.
Mr. Egan, are you ready to come on down?
I'm always ready.
Oh, you're always ready. Gene.
I'm a predicament tonight, Mr. Pierce. You're right.
Niece Jean is willingly going to unhandcuff Father. If he misbehaves, we'll put them back on. She doesn't even know where the hole is. Can you?
When my oldest son decided he was going to graduate, the seniors always went up and did wonderful things at the high school. So about 12:30 this night, Dad calls. He goes, Joann? Yes, Dad? Is Ronald home? I said, oh no. So I went and checked and he was asleep, and I said, yeah, Dad, he's asleep. He says, okay, they can book him. And I was afraid that he was one of those that was up there toilet papering the high school and would never